Hey, fourth graders, welcome to Unit 3, Lesson 11. Today's lesson will be showing you a couple of different methods for addition, but I want you to remember that you should use whatever method works best for you. So I'll show you 3 different ones, and then you'll decide at the end of the lesson which method you think works best for you, and then I recommend that you use that one to complete your work. The first method is something called new groups above method. This is the one that I used as a kid, and many of you probably still use it to this day. It's comprised of different steps where when you get a new group of 10 as you're adding, you carry the 1 or the 2 or whatever number it might be that you're carrying up above to the next place value. That one's probably one of the most common methods that you'll see a lot of people use. This next method, method number 2, is a newer method in which instead of carrying the 1 or carrying the number that you have over to the next place value on top, you actually carry it over onto the bottom. Now, there are some pros and cons of this method. The only con that I could see here is that it's so new that people may get confused as to what you're doing, or you may forget that step. But the pro here is that I often recognize some students forget those numbers they carry on top, but when they're on bottom here, we're more likely to remember since they're right there in front of us before we write our solution or answer. So I'll go through each of these methods. The third one is probably one that I will not use very much, but again, if it's one that works for you, I want you to feel free to use it. And this one's called the show subtotals method. So this one's very different from the new groups above and new groups below. These two are pretty much best friends. They're very similar, just different in one area, and that's where you carry the number. But this one's extremely different. We're used to working right to left, just like it shows here, where you carry the numbers, add the ones first, then the tens place, then the hundreds place, so on and so forth. This method actually moves left to right, like you read a book, where you add the hundreds place, write that answer. Then you add the tens place, write that answer underneath, and then you add the ones place and write that answer there. Then you end up doing a second part of adding, and then that's when you go down and add each place. So again, I'll show you all 3, and then you'll choose which one you like best and use that one for your work. So first things first, the new groups above method. And again, this is the one that I am the most familiar with. It's one I grew up doing, and it's probably one that many of your parents grew up doing as well. So chances are many of you use this method too. So the way this one works is you add the ones place first, so 9 plus 4, which gives me a group of 13. You put the 3 down and you carry the 1 above, hence the name new groups above. Now you need to remember to add that 1 that you carried with the 7 and 5. So 1 plus 7 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. So you'll carry the 1 from that 13 over to the hundreds place. Now again we'll add. So 1 plus 8 is 9. Plus 7 is 16. So now there's no other places or numbers to work with. So now you actually do bring the 1 down instead of carrying. Now, if you did carry, again, it'd just be like 1 plus 0 plus 0, and that's why the number gets written down here. So our final answer, using the new groups above the new groups above method, is 1,633. Remember, when placing your comma, you count in 1, 2, 3 spots and place a comma. Plus 5. Whoa. Now I'm going to show you the second method, which is called new groups below. Again, like I said before, very similar to new groups above. It's just that you place the numbers you carry below our numbers instead of up above in the atmosphere. So we'll start with the same numbers, 879 plus 754, and I'll start with the ones place. So 9 plus 4 gives me 13. Put the 3 down, and instead of carrying the 1 above, we'll carry it below. Again, it's easier for us to remember this way. Instead of it being way up here in the atmosphere where we might forget about it, it's right here where I'm more likely to remember. 7 plus 5 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Carry the 1 over to the next place value, the hundreds place below. 8 plus 7 is 15, plus 1 is 16. So again, we get the same answer because we're dealing with the same numbers. It's just a different method of adding. Count in 1, 2, 3 spots, 1, 2, 3 for my comma. So again, the answer is 1,633. And now we have this third and last method that I'll show you before I give you time to practice with the method of your choosing. This one's called show subtotals. Subtotals would be like a partial total because we're going to be adding each place value and then adding up all those numbers in the very end. So with this, I actually start on the left side instead of the right side like I did with the other two methods. So I'll start with the hundreds place, which 8 plus 7 is 15. But remember, it's not just the number 15. I need to make it so that it's in the hundreds place. So that means 2 zeros need to follow it to cover the zeros and to cover the ones and the tens place. So then I have the 15 in the hundreds and then the thousands place because the 10 would carry over to the thousands place. You with me? Now, I go on to the tens place. 7 plus 5, which is 12, which again, I don't write just the single number 12. I have to make sure that that number is pushed over. So I need a 0 here to cover the ones place. Then I'll add the 9 plus the 4, which is 13. And this time, because it is dealing with the ones, then I write that as just the number 13. So again, it's getting these zeros in to make sure you're working with the correct place because I needed to be in the hundreds place. I had to put a 0 in the ones and the tens. And then the next spot, I needed a 0 in the ones place to get to the tens. This one is a little bit more complicated and it is very different. So I personally wouldn't use this method, but again, if it's one that you like to use, go for it. Now we can add up our spots. So I'm going to go right to left now. 3, then 0, 2, and 1 gives me 3. 5 and 1 gives me 6. And 1 and zeros gives me 1. So count in 1, 2, 3 for my comma. Again, we're working with the same numbers, 879 plus 754. So our answer is the same. I just showed you 3 different ways to get there. Now that you've seen each of the 3 methods, and please feel free to go back in the video to watch the methods again if you need a little extra practice, I am going to give you time now to work on the ticket. And again, I want you to use any method to add. If the subtotals one confused you, don't use it. If the new groups below method looked like really cool and it sounds like one that would be really helpful to you, use that one. Or if you just want to use the new groups above because it's one that you're familiar with and you're comfortable using it, go for it. Again, use the method that works for you. You have 3 problems here to solve. Number 1 is 957 plus 378. Number 2 is 853 plus 469. And number 3 is 427 plus 693. Again, use any method that works for you. Good luck. I know you will do well.